But Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life and the Power is Within You. Those are my Bibles.
Yeah.
Because they basically go to the symptom and the cause. Right. And then how you can change those things. And it's no Einstein thing, No. And so therefore he didn't even graduate. Look at Alexander Graham Bell. Mm-hmm. That's why we're here today, is because of Alexander Graham Bell.
Yeah.
Think about it. Yeah. So therefore, and the lights, Mm-hmm. These are all come from the root system of our education. And so why are we being so hoity-toity about all of this? Keep it simple, sweetie.
Yeah.
Little KISS principle.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I was talking to somebody's spirit guides the other day, and they were saying how humans complicate things so much. Like, we need to simplify things. Like, why can't we do that? So that totally makes sense.
So I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever notice energetic patterns or emotional blocks showing up across the iris, the body, and the aura?
I think the thing is people in our culture have difficulty talking about auras. Mm. And I think that that's one thing that we really have to be cautious about as practitioners, because, we talked about that before you came, and it's about, we get labeled. And so not everyone is comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So I think that we have to really be professional about this, because especially if the medical community, if we want to, emerge and immerse with them, embrace the medical community, we need to be careful about that. Because I think that, it has value to us, but it may not have value to the modern medical system we're in. And so I think that we have to really be cautious about how we portray ourselves, because I think that if we go about, all these wild and woolly things, that's how people perceive it, then therefore they're going to block us out. So we really have to be careful about evidence-based. We really have to be careful about, all of the modalities that we do and how we speak. We really have to be cautious about that, because I remember speaking at the College of Medicine one time about Reiki and about some of these things, and they said, this is really thought-provoking, but nowadays, now it's becoming more mainstream. So I think that in our learning, I think that we basically have to, it depends who you're talking to. But if your audience basically isn't there, then you can chase people away. And that's the caution that I would bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But when you're reading someone's eyes, can you see like emotional blocks and things like that from there?
Can. It's all emotional.
Yeah.
It's all emotional, mental, physical.
And how does the Western medicine, when you can read do they accept ideology there?
Some do. When I worked at Switch, I worked with 12 different doctors, and some did and some didn't. Mm. And that's okay. Then after that, I had them refer to me, But they give it some thought. And I think that, they go home. And of course, now with the internet, they went to Dr. Internet, and you know what I'm saying? So I think that when they get to know that you're not witchcraft and you're not, because there's some people flying on a broom out there. So you really have to be cautious about how we portray ourselves. And you can't go from this extreme to that extreme. I think it's just like a baby learning to walk. I think we have to crawl before we can get there. And that's where we are right now with the medical community, because I've attended a meeting at the College of Medicine about 3 weeks ago. And this is what we talked about, is what modalities are we going to start adopting? And then basically, but when we start talking about auras the day you walk in there, they're going to, they're not going to buy it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I think we have to be respectful. We have to be cognizant of where they're at. And it's no different when a patient comes into your door. You have to get them as to where they're at. You don't bring them way past over there, and you don't bring them, if they say that, these are the modalities they've tried, so they've been dipping their toes in the water. But if they have no clue of why they're sitting there, but somebody sent them there, then therefore you can basically see where they're at and say, okay, these are the modalities that I practice. Some people won't let you touch them. And that's where Tamara's House came in. Okay, because I raised $1.8 million for Tamara's House, because that's where Reiki come in. We got $126,000 from Health Canada to do that research. And so therefore, out of that research, basically, we did Reiki, we did psychodramatic body work, and we did aroma massage therapy. And that's what that research brought to the forefront. So 600 women went through that project.
Wow.
So therefore, in 1605 Victoria, and I started that project from nothing. There was the little old house was sitting on that lot, 375-foot lots, and there's grass growing through the windows. And so I went through City Hall, I went to rezoning, I went to City Council, we went all over the place. And so therefore, basically, I went through a lot of witchcraft things because people would phone me and keep me awake all night. We could programming my phone so it would ring once. And then I went to the police station with that information. And one of the police women looked at me and she said, I can't read this. She said, this is just too wild. And I said, yeah, this is what they've done to us. They threatened each one of the board members not to have this house in their community. Mm-hmm. So these are the kinds of things I went through in order to get that project there. So therefore, one fellow called me and he said, what are you going to do with the whores and the prostitutes? And I said, did Jesus turn Mary Magdalene away? And one of the board members said to me, what did you ever made you say that? And I said, well, I was raised in a convent, That came to me just like that. Mm-hmm. But these are the kinds of things and so when we had the grand opening, I asked one of the policemen that I knew basically to patrol the area because there's over 200 people at the grand opening outside. And I was the master of ceremonies. And so therefore we were safe, make sure that everybody was safe.
Can you say what the Tamara House is? We have a lot of listeners from United States everywhere.
Okay. Tamara's House was basically a home for sexually abused women as children, 16 years and under. And so the research basically stated that it was the first of its kind in Canada. The research stated that 1 out of every 3 women were sexually abused as children, 5 out of every 7 men, and 80% of people with disabilities have been sexually abused. So then I went to court it took me 4 years to get my daughter to court. I don't give up very easy to get my daughter to court. And so I saw that there was no screen. So she had to see her perpetrator while she's sitting there, and she's got cerebral palsy. And so therefore I went to the legislature in Regina and basically got a screen that is now at the courthouse in Saskatoon, basically so the women don't have to see their perpetrator, people with disabilities. So therefore, it basically, I think that as a practitioner, you're basically, community is really important here. And that's why basically when I mentor students, I basically mention that it's important to get yourself into the community because that's how we can make a difference. But Tamara's House basically was my project for a long time. So I was on the board for 9 years. I saw it being built from sticks to mortar.
Mm.
Yeah.
And just helping people heal through the more holistic modalities.
Right. And a lot of the women basically wouldn't want to be touched. So therefore they wore necklace around their bodies saying, we don't shake hands and we don't hug. So therefore, that's why that research also states that it's important to make sure that before you touch anyone with reflexology or Reiki or anywhere, that you basically ask for permission because they may have a trigger. So therefore, I always have at my office, I always have a doll because you don't want to, if they come to your office as a child, you don't want them leaving your office as a child. So therefore, you want to bring them back to basically the adult phase before you let them out the door.
Yeah.
So that research is really important. I just had that here a minute ago. I don't know where it went. Yeah, right there. So that's basically the research that we got from, thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And all of the modalities, their documents. Yeah. So therefore, I think it's not just a matter of being a Reiki practitioner. I think it's about knowing about triggers. And so therefore, there's also a program that we had that basically trained people, practitioners, about the distance healing and about how you respect other people that have been sexually abused. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could go for PTSD as well. Basically, I have a relative that basically has PTSD, and he was brought to me by his parents, and they rifled to the roof of his mouth.
Oh.
And he's written a book now about PTSD, and he's on Facebook. It's a book called I'm Okay. But, I think the thing is, too, is with these modalities, you're out in the public eye. So that's what I'm saying to you today is the fact that, we have to be careful when we start talking about energy work. We have to be careful about where we talk about auras for that reason, because people aren't all there. And so if you have someone that has a psychiatric issue, they're not going to come near you. So it's a matter, I think, of treating people as to where they're at and where they're comfortable. And there's people that come to my office and I'd say you'd be happier someplace else. And it's a kind way to say, you and I aren't seeing the same, and it's a polite way to do it.
Yeah.
And so, it's a response that basically we have to, and I've learned that over the years, because had that been a few years ago, the language would have been a little different.
I think it's really important to know that not every client is your client. Christy and I have talked about this. Mm-hmm. And we always ask our clients, especially when they come in for Reiki, are you okay with touch? These are the places I would touch you if I need to, mm-hmm. and just going over them. And mm-hmm. Yes or no. And the great thing about doing Reiki, of course, and mm-hmm. you don't even have to, you can just work right above the body too. So it's mm-hmm. fantastic. But it's
do a chair treatment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've done chair treatment to a doctor who at Westside Community Clinic, because we had gang members that had left the gang and came to speak to us. And so he was sitting there in a chair and we were listening. And I said, is it okay if I do Reiki? So I did Reiki on it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anything like that. That's mm-hmm. what's fantastic about Reiki.
I know.
Works all over.
Yeah.
So Flo, before we wrap up here, what are a few simple ways our listeners can begin tuning into their own healing? And what is one truth or a piece of wisdom you feel called to share for those walking on the healing path right now? Because a lot of our listeners are practitioners in some form or other, in some kind of modality. They really want to expand their health journey and energetic work. And what would you say?
I think that healing is not for people that wait. People is there for people who move.
Right.
In my blended personality way. But basically I think that it's a matter of let the client, patient lead the way. And I think that, if they feel that you're competing with the client, with the practitioner, then that's not going to work. So it basically makes sure that you're on the same level, wavelength. But healing is personal. And so therefore, they basically have an opportunity, and I see it as an opportunity because a lot of people don't get a chance to heal. Especially when you have cancer patients. I have a lot of cancer patients right now. I've got over 14, 15 people with severe cancer. And so therefore, what you introduce to them is something that they have to feel comfortable with. It depends on their level of education, and also I think that the first doctor in Alberta that basically became an herbalist, for instance, basically phoned me and he said, you're on your way to the Calgary Stampede. Would you stop and bring me your herbal books so I could have a look at them? So here we are. I stayed overnight, and he's an acupuncturist and he was a dentist before. So here we are sitting with needles all over the place, and I'm doing reflexology, and, that's basically how this happens. And he's a doctor. Mm-hmm. He was the first doctor in Alberta to do herbal medicine. So I think that we have to practice what we preach. And I'm a great one for that because, I remember I had brought some high bush cranberries as a fruit to eat in a jar. And one of the receptionists came to me and said, "What are those red things that you eat?" And I said, "Those are high bush cranberries." Never heard of them, And so, I think that people follow us, they watch us, we're on display here now. So it's like walking around with clothes on, everybody watches what you do. And so that's why I think that we also have a role to play here as the leader in terms of leadership, because I think that, what we perceive, what we believe, we have to carry it on in all of our affairs. And I think that our role as human beings is to be leaders, but also to be followers too, to a point, because you're not going to be, living alone is not going to be fun. So it's basically a matter of how can we connect with other people, and it's about relativity. And so Dr. Louis Malmadrona wrote a book called Coyote Medicine. And in his book, he talks about relationships. So that's what I'm saying in terms of what is our relationship with our community, our relationship with our fellow human beings, with our own families, because, you have to remember that being a practitioner is not easy because your family, gets left behind. And so how to mingle and incorporate all of these people into your life. You feel like an octopus because you're here, you're there. I mean, I've done consultations in Safeway when this place was Safeway. The woman came up with her pencil and paper, and you're Flo. Well, yes, pencil and paper,
So funny.
That's true. I mean, if I go to hockey rinks, I've been in every hockey rink in this province. And, I met people and they say, "Okay, what are you doing here?" "Well, I'm looking for a coaching job." I mean, think about it. So I'm here for my own belief, my own sanity, but you have no identity anymore. And so that's what I'm saying is I think that, if someone is going to do this, do it wholeheartedly. Don't do it half-assed because it's not going to work. You have to give her all or nothing. It's hard work. Healing is hard work. Mm-hmm. And you've got to go through bumpy roads, and you've got to go through, like I said, prescription drugs, perhaps alcoholism, perhaps drug addiction, perhaps whatever people are going through.
Food addiction.
Pardon me?
Food addictions.
That's it. Yeah, we're addictive personalities, Mm-hmm. So we really have to be careful. We get people as to where they're at and don't take them beyond that, And I've had people that it took them a couple of years and they're back. If you read my book, my new book that's out there, it's the same thing, they come back about 10, 20, 15 years later, Mm-hmm. And I've got people that are coming back 20 years later, And so there's no hard, fast rule. I think that it's just a matter of, practicing being kind, being respectful, and offering what people need. And, like refer to the community. Like I have my network. I know how to network.
Mhm.
And so I have people everywhere I go, And so, I mean, even up to I remember I had 1, 2, 3, 4 different policemen I know. So I was able to, if I had some situation that I needed to call, I knew where to go. But I think that it's no different with education, I mean, we're treating everyone in a different way. And the College of Medicine has been really good to me because they have allowed me to slip in through the, and so therefore they respect me and I respect them. But they have an opinion and so do I.
Mhm.
And they let that be. So it's different for everybody. Yeah.
I have to ask, how many people do you look into their eyes and say that they have candida? Is it a really big problem with a lot of people?
Candida, cancer is candida.
Oh, so it's like people
Wow.
really need to cut out their sugars, don't they?
But it's more than that. I think candida is something bugging you
Oh,
emotionally. And so therefore, because what do we eat? Why do we eat?
yeah.
We eat to fulfill and to sustain ourselves, And I always say it's God's fault because you know what? If he'd have done this, and we'd have been better off, But basically, I think we use food as a fix. And poverty is an issue because you see them eating junk.
Yeah.
And then look what happens, and that's the title of my next book is called The Richness of Poverty. And basically is because they only have so much to eat. But the thing is watch them when they get money, they get a pension check or they get a family allowance check or whatever, and follow them to the grocery store. So we fulfill our needs through food. And so that's why I think that we have to remain true to ourselves and say, okay, so do I really need this? How many people do that? You don't go to Smorg and fill your plate till it's like this, You take this and that and the next thing. So when I was in Europe, I learned that we treat digestion differently. And so what we did is here we treated from the mouth down. In Europe, they don't do that. They start with the eyes. Because you see your food, you start salivating and that's how you make your choices, is with your eyes. Okay. Then your cheeks. Okay. And those are the muscles that keep moving your teeth up and down. And so we have 32 teeth. So therefore they have a function about your lips. They talk about every facet of our being as digest, but the brain is part of that.
Yeah.
Because it helps us to fulfill that need of where am I at now? Now, if you're pissed off today, but if you're pissed off today, you're basically going to eat and fulfill that, that anger. You're just going to stuff it, And then if you're basically feeling good about yourself, then you're more conscious about what you're putting into your mouth. It's not a hammer mill, I was raised on a farm, where you shove till it starts groaning and groaning. And, we do the same thing. But, the thing is chickens know when to stop. I watch them, and I watch in the bush and I watch animals. They walk around and they eat this and that. And the next thing, deer know how to eat properly. It's we, the human beasts, don't know how to do that. So I think that there's part of our psyche that's not arranged properly in our being because, of all we're trauma oriented. And that's what drives us. Dr. Gabor Mate writes one heck of a book on trauma.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just love that man to pieces.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's so gentle.
Yeah.
If you only gave me part of that, I'd be happy. But But, he basically has a real sense of direction in terms of how you handle your emotions and you handle yourself. And, you take a look at society, where it's at right now. Everything's out of control.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about food.
Yeah.
It's not just about sex. It's about every part of our being is out of control. And so therefore, our systems are out of control. So there has to be balance here somewhere.
You made a really good point, Flo. People need to just start. After I saw you, I had like 3 birthdays. I had a Father's Day, and people like, oh God, you're going to start this now in summer? And I thought, yeah, I got to start this like right after I left you. I thought, this is it. Tomorrow, it was like a Tuesday. I was like, hey, Wednesday I'm starting. It's not like I'm going to start Monday. And look at the difference it made. Like, you guys, it's crazy. And I can't even begin to tell you how much better I feel. And Christy does this work too. Like, she can tell you her stories too about changing that and regulating hormones and getting to the bottom of the root of things by our diet and food.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's basically what this next book talks about. This one is all about testimonials, 72 testimonials there.
Yeah.
And basically it talks about all of these kinds of things that from athletes tell their stories. I've worked with football players. I've worked with wrestlers. I've worked with, marathon runners. That's what it's about. And it's not about what we do as a profession. It's who we are, that body we live in. So therefore, I think that the time has come, I think, where these are the teachings, that we can provide to people. And that's what our purpose here. What is my purpose here? And that's why we have people like Jason here today. And it basically because of that it's a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he talked about, and so, all the mentorships, I've mentored medical students, I've mentored herbal students, and it's the same for everybody. Is I think that we need to take people as to where they're at, but then not move them beyond where they're really meant to go, because they need to discover this for themselves. And so that's why Gabor Mate's book is the best book going, and then the Louise Hay book, with The Powers Within You, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So therefore we have to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not complicated whatsoever.
Yeah.
Babies take 9 months. And in my garden, when I plant my garden, I don't go 4 months, 4 days down the road and say, hell, those damn carrots go,
Yeah.
I mean,
we have to respect that gestation period.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we have to be there too. Mm-hmm. But that's why everything is so out of control, And we've had floods, we've had fires, we've had everything, and all these fights that people are going through, and wars. That's all déjà vu. It's just that it's up to us as one individual to make that difference.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did want to ask a question about like my homeopath. She works in Saskatoon, and she'll notice different themes that happen with people like week on week. Have you ever noticed that? Like if you're treating in Saskatoon, like people are moving through the same types of things?
So Christy's homeopath said she notices that people go through themes over week through week. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
She'll notice that with people go through like themes over weeks. Do you notice that with your clients, that they're kind of going through the same stuff depending on the week?
Seasons, I would agree.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because gallbladder season and it's no different than the November. You see the flu starts. And people expect to take cold medicine and that kind of thing. But that's when the Christmas oranges come out, because they're high in E. coli and because they're grown in human manure. I have a picture on the table over there of me cleaning my feet in Vietnam, because I was in an orchard and they use human manure to grow their food, their oranges and their I have a picture of that. And so therefore, that's why they come in November, and that's why people end up with colds and flus, and, they're sniffing here and sniffing there. And it's all and since people have stopped eating oranges at Christmas time, they get better. They don't get the flu and they don't get the cold. I didn't get COVID and I didn't get H1N1 and I haven't had a thing. I've been in the same clinic and I've never missed a day's work.
Wow.
You probably tell your body that sickness does not apply to you as well. People, they're like, oh, I always get sick twice a year. So what's going to happen? They're going to get sick twice a year.
And that's it.
Yeah.
But you see, it's basically societal. And so we have seasonal diseases. It's no different than gallbladder. Spring and fall, sure as guns. I've got a series of gallbladder, and then I have a series of cold and flus and bugs and what have you. I did a radio show called Let's Talk Saskatchewan, and it was the same thing. It was, all of these kinds of things. They were talking about the colds and the flus and the bugs and, the echinacea and the olive leaf and on and on and on. I have a I know that our shelves are full. So I think the thing is that's why, look at COVID, everything stopped.
Yeah.
And it left people, there's a thing about COVID, it left people stayed home. Why do you buy a house? You don't buy a house to go roaming around the universe, And so my theory is it brought people closer together. It basically made people stay home, and it brought families together. And so it has a lot of good points. And I mean, sure, the disease isn't very good, but then again, you have to look at the cause of the disease. Okay, where now is really rampant all over the place of what the disease is. But I'm not going there. But I think that it's really impressive to know that what it did do, you have to look at the other side of the coin. If I get a nickel tomorrow, it's got two sides. It's got the beaver on one side and the writing on the other. So therefore, I think that there's two sides to every story. And it's the same as dis-ease. There's two sides to it. And so it's people think, but people, how they behave, it's a culture. Basically, as you take a look, tuberculosis is going to be back because everybody's starting to huddle in different homes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids coming out of the same place. So we're going to end up with tuberculosis again because people live in communes. So we have to change the way that we behave.
Right. Yeah.
And what comes out of our mouth,
Mm-hmm.
Because you can judge people by, the BS that they sling,
Yeah.
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 Did you have any other questions, Christy, or?
No, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Flo, you've written a couple books.
Yes.
What are they called, and where can people find them?
Okay. So the first book is called, what is it? It's in 5th printing anyway.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Good health is cooking in the pot.
Okay.
And not cooking with pot, but
Yeah, don't get that
it was introduced at one time. And the other one is called Sharing Health and Wellness. And I personally carry them. And then also Nature's Health carries them.
Okay. Can people order online if they wanted to buy your book?
Yeah, my email address is lava99 at sasktail.net.
We'll put that in our show notes.
And then the other one is called, I have another book coming out, and it's called The Richness of Poverty.
Okay. And if people wanted to have a reading of their irises,
Consultation?
could they do that online?
No.
Or no, it has to be in person. Oh, sorry, everybody not in Saskatoon.
But the thing is it doesn't give you that human touch. Okay. You can read it, but it only gives you one position of the eye. See, I basically you have to look up, then you look down, then you look sideways, and you look, so there's different eye movements. And so therefore you don't get that and it's impersonal.
Yeah.
It's really impersonal because there's a lot of, you have to look at body language. That's another really good book to read. It's called Body Language. People are going to sit like this, okay? You know darn well you're not going to get a bit of information out of those people.
Their arms crossed.
It's closed. And then you get people that are there for a good joke, which I don't mind. But basically is they're there because they enjoy, it's a visit. Okay. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see why people come.
Yeah.
And then I get bachelors. They laugh at me because I have 9, 10 bachelors, you know. And they all come almost the same day. It's really interesting. Jenna and I, basically, she's an excellent receptionist, but Jenna and I laugh because it's bachelor day today. You know? We have a whole bunch of bachelors come in. So everyone comes for different reasons, you know. And so therefore, you know, they come for reflexology, or they will come for, you know, they may have, you know, something occur on their farm or whatever. So we talk horses, maybe.
Right.
You know, so it's a lot of fun. I have one woman who brought me, her husband wouldn't come to see me. So she said she works with horses. Then he came because I work with horses. So that brought him in. You know what I mean? So everybody comes for a different reason. And that's why I keep saying we're at this place. And so that's where we start working with it. But I would work with his health first, and then we tie into the horses, you know, and then he kept coming back. So she keeps mentioning that he passed away. And so she kept mentioning that to me, you know, she said, if Jim comes because of the horses, that's how she got him there. But so different than children, you know, I have little kids that play hockey. So I bring out my hockey pictures. And then I said, I did a movie. Well, that will fix it, you know. Then they think, well, okay, then we'll come and we'll sit in this chair. And I give kids balloons. So, and then, of course, they know to go to that cupboard because there's balloons in that cupboard, you know. So you have to go where kids are at, where people are at. And that's why I love what I do, because I take people as to where they're at.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to be religious for half an hour, I can do that for half an hour. But
that's your max.
That's it. So everybody's in a different place. And you know, I mean, it worked for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not a hoity-toity. I just basically do what I do. I also do ear candling, by the way.
Oh, I did actually see that.
Yeah.
That is also really neat. Yeah.
So I've been doing that for 27, 28 years.
That's satisfying, isn't it? Taking the wax. It would be for me too.
Sure. It's like a pot party. Yeah.
I do have one final question before we wrap up here. Have you been reading my eyes the whole time I've been sitting beside you? Okay. Just curious if you could tell I was pregnant from my eyes. Yep. Okay. All right, well, that was it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Flo, for being here. This was such a great, enlightening conversation. You're such a trailblazer here in Saskatoon. Like, wow, especially with that Terra House, and just you've been in this game for a long time. And it's amazing the feats that it's come. And I love that you said that this is going to keep coming in, because it's really important.
The other thing, I think I have one more story to tell, if I can.
Yeah.
Okay, is there's a little old fella at the chuck wagons, and he was sitting on a bale at the end of the barn. And his wife I was working with a horse, and she said, do you work on humans? And I said, sure I do. She said, well, my husband's sitting on a bale at the door, and he wants to know if you could look at his knee. I said, okay. So anyway, I said, I'll finish my horse, and then I'll go and talk to him. So, and he's the cutest little button, you know. He's got his little old hat, and he's all curled up, and he's really weather beaten. So I go over there, and I said, hi, I'm Flo. And he said, well, it's this way. He said, I've been watching you work on the horse. And he said, if it's good enough for the horse, it's good enough for me.
I love it.
Love that.
Yeah. Did you help him?
Yeah, because it was really interesting, because the next morning, and of course in those days, all the drivers used to come to the barn in the morning with a coffee pot and their cup. And of course that next morning I'm in the barn and I'm doing my thing with my horse. And then all of a sudden I hear old Joe, First time I slept in 2 weeks. He said, I went to see her and she fixed my knee. So then after that, he wanted to know if he could drive the next day. And I said, no, you can't. Wait till the next rodeo and then you can drive. And then it was really funny. The next year, he also shoot horses. So the next year, my husband and his friend said, we'll go over to old Joe's place. He said, come over when you're done with your horse. So anyway, I get there and his wife comes to me. She said, you're lucky I'm not a jealous woman. And I said, why? She said, Joe never remembers women's names, but he's never forgotten yours.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great story.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to thank Flo for her time today and just how inspiring this conversation was for myself. It's just like you need to meet people where they're at on their journey. And that's like one of my hugest takeaways. I needed to hear that today. So thanks for sharing your story. And I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Awesome. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all she wrote.
Yeah. I wanted to get the pictures of the hockey players in there.
Oh,
over there. There's
okay.
a bunch of them.
I'll take a photo of them.
Yeah.
Because we don't really use our video. We use mainly just our audio.
Okay, that's okay.
We'll post everything to the Instagram so people can see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. I'll do that before I leave.
Yeah.
All right. I hope everybody enjoyed that episode. And if you're new here, we always love to end our episodes with a card pull, and Amanda did the honors. So what's going on?
Okay, so I'm using the original Raider White's tarot deck, actually. I felt inclined. I've been really listening to what catches my eye, like especially when my Reiki clients come. I always have like all these crystals and I always choose one for them after the session. And like lately I've been just like going by what catches my eye and it's bang on every time. So I'm really trying to listen to that intuition. Okay, so I pulled an oracle card for the overall energy and I got the throat chakra